Hello and welcome to the Game Theory NBA Draft Show. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon and I are going to give you everything you need to know from Feast Week, from Cam Carr to Cam Boozer to Caleb Wilson to whoever you want to talk about, to whoever Bryce wants to talk about. I am excited to go through it. Let's jump in and hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? I had a staunch reminder this week during Feast Week that scouting games by yourself and scouting games while trying to carry on family conversations at Thanksgiving are vastly different endeavors and something I really struggle with as I tried to watch games on Thanksgiving Day, but between all the conversations and people trying to talk, even taking notes and really analyzing just did not go over so well. And there was a lot of rewatching from things I thought I had watched once.
Yeah, like I saw that this was like a whole conversation that was being had like on the internet after I think Erin Andrews might have shared something where it was like she misses these moments for people, and then like I saw that a bunch of people were like, yeah, this is absolutely true, like the games are played when other people aren't working, you're gonna have to work nights and weekends and holidays, and you're gonna miss all of these important events like weddings and Christmases and Thanksgivings. And I was just like, why are we like lionizing this? Like, why are we like saying that this is a cool thing to do? Like, no, like you can both have a life and also like work in the sports industry. I promise. Like I've just kind of stopped like on the Thursday, not on the Thursday, but on the Saturday where my family ends up celebrating Thanksgiving. I just don't do anything. It's okay. You don't have to be there live for every single moment that it's happening. Look, like there are some people who are covering things day to day where they do have to be there. That is a real thing. And I don't want to diminish what those people do. But if you want to work in sports and you want to look at it a different way, and ultimately at the end of the day, like the goal is to come up with creative angles. And if you can find sources and you can find people that will talk to you and will help you create interesting angles and will, help you have like a creative outlook on the things that you're covering, I swear you can do this job and have a normal life. It is, if you want to cover teams all the time and like be there in person and do it, like you can do that, and that's okay. And I'm all for those people and I love what those people do. But you truly can, if you want to, have a normal life while doing this.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think the hardest part for me, Sam, I don't know if I haven't just like watched a game in so long now. I feel like I can't turn it off. You know what I mean? Like I can't
a basketball game, I can't do it.
Correct. Yeah, basketball. I can't turn off the analysis or the nuances or the intricacies of what I'm watching. And it's really hard to just watch a game as a basketball fan. I really struggle with it. So even in those moments, watching some of those games, I don't watch and just, oh, this is a great game between team A and team B. It's always like, well, man, that guy's kind of interesting. What's the NBA draft profile there? And, it doesn't turn off anymore. And that's okay. Like, I'm not complaining. I get a national podcast with you that thousands of people listen to. This is what I've always wanted to do. And I love it. But even in those moments where I'm just casually, quote unquote, watching with my family, it's not the same as it was 5 years ago before I was podcasting and doing all of this stuff.
Yep. No, I mean, that's absolutely kind of true to me. And look, the way that I operate is I kind of tell you like, no, like you want to do something, go do it. Like, it's okay. We can move things around. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I am really big on trying to have some sort of life. Like that is the goal here. We don't work just to work. Right. And I say that as somebody who probably does not have a healthy relationship with work. at the end of the day. Like I work way too many hours. And like on Sunday, I went out in the morning with my wife. We went shopping. We did some things. And then from 3 o'clock to 10 o'clock on Sunday, I prepped for the podcast and like did a bunch of game watching that I missed on Saturday because I, spent time with my wife and had a nice time. You know what I mean? And my wife's mom came over and we had dinner and we watched If I Had Legs I'd Kick You, and like it was a nice time. But like I swear, these things are doable. I promise you guys that if you want to work in sports, you don't have to listen to the people that are like gluttons for punishment on these things. You just have to come up with a creative angle at the end of the day. Okay. Feast Week though does feature a lot of basketball games, and I watched a lot of basketball over the course of this time. So I guess where I want to start is, what was your ultimate takeaway from Feast Week?
I'm trying to think if there was a game that stood out to me the most. I mean, I feel like I just got to look at a lot of guys. Like my board, here's what's I feel like I got some real good sample on guys, and it did move around my board, right? Like, so a guy I know that you want to talk about, Cameron Carr, really flew up at probably everybody's boards. And so that's a guy that did really well for himself. Well, I think there's some other guys we got, good looks at that maybe went the other direction. So I think my biggest thing for Feast Week is there's a lot of basketball that we got to watch, a lot of good competition. I guess just a pure basketball thing was 3 games in 3 days seemed like too much for some of these teams. I thought there was some bad games on that third day that it just seemed like for some teams was a little bit too much. And we saw some lopsided games on that third day of 3. But in general, I love that we got so much basketball to evaluate a lot of these guys.
100%. And I think there was some like real moving and shaking across the board. So let's start with Cam Carr, because I think Cam Carr is probably the guy I want to talk about most.
Sure.
So Cam Carr, for people who have not seen him previously, so he is a third year. I think he might be a redshirt sophomore is what he's classified as, but a third year wing currently playing for Baylor, who started his career at Tennessee and was just very skinny at Tennessee. He suffered like a untimely injury coming into last year where he wasn't healthy to start the year, and then like didn't really enter the rotation for a good Tennessee team because they were rolling. And then as a freshman, like just was not ready physically. Right. I think he was like 6'5" to 6'6", 160 pounds or something when he got to Tennessee originally. But he also has incredibly long arms and has always been this really high level scorer, even going back to his prep days. He was a top 50 recruit in the country, somebody that people were really, really excited about. It just took a little bit of time for him. And ultimately he transferred to Baylor and has completely taken off at Baylor. Like he is Baylor's best draft prospect. I don't really think it's all that close between him and Tunde Yesufu either. Cam Carr so far this season is averaging, I want to get the numbers exactly right, 22.7 points, 5.2 rebounds, 1.3 assists, shooting 57, 55, 79. He dropped 27 on St. John's. He dropped 21 on Creighton. He had 16 on 4 of 7 from the field, 5 of 8 from the line with 6 rebounds against Washington with all of their prospects. And then against San Diego State in the last game of the Players era, he had 17, 6 and 3, 1 steal, 1 block. I wouldn't say he's been like immensely impactful on defense. We'll talk about that later. I do think that the assist numbers kind of underrate his passing ability a little bit. I don't think he's a poor passer, to be honest with you. I think I saw enough passing flashes in the games that I've seen so far, the Creighton game, the St. John's game, and the Washington game, to where even though over the course of those 3 games, he had 4 assists, I think his teammates just missed a lot of shots kind of whenever he kicked out to them, honestly. The big thing here, though, is this is now a 6'6" kid that's probably like 180 pounds now. He's like put on enough weight to at least like physically deal with this. He has, I mean, it's got to be, I've heard reported like 7'2" wingspan. It's at least over 7 foot. Yeah. It's at least over 7 foot. He is super long and you feel the length in how he plays. He has a incredibly high release point on his jumper, and he kind of elevates into the jumper. He does a great job of playing off of 2 feet. I think he moves off the ball incredibly well, and he has real NBA range as a shooter. Like, he is sniping from 3 already from beyond 23, 24 feet, to the point where like his relocation is not just to the college 3-point line. His relocation is to the NBA 3-point line to give his team even more space, and he cashes those. I am very high on Cam Carr. Every time I watch him, I'm just like, this looks exactly like an NBA wing game is supposed to look.
So I've actually followed, not all of these guys do I follow from like high school. He was a Link kid. But Cam Carr is one that uniquely I've actually followed through the last 4 years, even through his time at Tennessee, even though there wasn't a ton of game action for him.
And just to be, I do want to be clear with people, like how he ends up at Baylor is that Bill Armstrong was the coach at Link Academy. Armstrong was an assistant at Baylor last season after leaving Link, and then went to go coach McNeese this year. But Bill Armstrong has long been close with the Baylor staff even before he ended up with that job. And I'm sure that Bill spoke very highly of Cam Carr to the Baylor staff.
And you could always see the tools with Cam Carr. Like, it was always there. It was just like, how was this going to come together? The jumper has always looked as pure as what it looks like right now. He's a big time athlete. And so for people who don't know, his dad, there's a pedigree here, 7-year NBA player, played a total of almost 300 games, scored almost 2,000 points in the NBA, and then like famously finished second to Kobe in the 1997 NBA slam dunk contest. So like, a real NBA player that was a real athlete, and Cameron Carr has all of those things. He just put it all together here at Baylor. And we are going to talk about the defense. I also think that was part of the questions at Tennessee. Maybe it was solely because of the lack of strength and all of that. I think there was just some, intensity aspects of that on the defensive end as well. I think the number that stands out most to me, I'm not surprised that he's knocking down threes at a high rate. I thought he's been a big time shooter going back to Link. Him getting 7 free throw attempts per game is huge, Sam.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't what I always saw with Cam Carr. And that's what makes him a potential lottery pick right now, is if he was only knocking down threes, but wasn't doing the stuff off the dribble and getting to the free throw line and all of that, it's like, okay, first round pick, but with the defensive questions, lottery. No, with the athleticism, with the 3-point shooting, with the ability to put it on the deck and get to the free throw line, I think he's improved defensively, even though there's real questions. This is a guy that's very much in the lottery conversation right now. I know for me, and I assume for you as well.
I have him as my top returner right now, not including Jaden Quaintance. I want to see what Quaintance is before we assess him, but let's remove Quaintance for a second. I have Cam Carr right now as my top guy who returned to college basketball this season, or first. Maybe the better way to put it is because Quaintance is first year eligible this year. My first ranked non one and done, first year eligible player right now.
Yeah.
The question I'm going to ask you is what you think of the defense, because that's been my biggest kind of bugaboo so far. What have you taken away from the defense on his part?
So I think part of it is going to be perception for me and expectation, because I've followed him so closely for so long. I know where the defense has been at in the past. And so I find him to be much improved from what I've thought over the last few years. And so that is a positive thing to me. I'm not fully bought in. I don't know that I don't think it's good, but I do think the multiple efforts along with the length and all of that gives him a chance to be at least neutral on the defensive end. I mean, he's at almost 2.5 stocks per game right now. So I think it has a long ways to go, and I'm not fully bought in yet, but I do think that there is progress, which I am very excited to see.
I think there's actually been a little bit of progress on the ball, which has been exciting to me. I think he's been pretty okay there. It's the off ball stuff that is still messy, in my opinion. He will just blow tags, and I will be like, oh, that's something that will just get you benched immediately in the NBA. Right. He will make mistakes that are somewhat concerning to me. And yet, I still think that as his body fills out, the reason that these guys that are super long and that, have this frame, that teams buy into them is because they do just have an immense amount of upside once they reach their physical potential, right? It might take a little bit of time. And in Cam Carr's case, it has taken a little bit of time. But I think he is clearly immensely gifted, and that's never really been in question. Like, I've had agents reaching out to me asking about Cam Carr. Hey, what do you think of this guy? What do you think of him? For a while, and my answer was always, I just don't think he's ready at the end of the day. Like, there hasn't been a point where I've been like, oh, like this is a guy that should be coming out this year. Like, maybe you should be recruiting him for the future, but like, I haven't seen a reason to think that he's a draft prospect this year yet.
Yep.
I think we're clearly there, and it has spiked in a hurry for him. Like, it has spiked very, very quickly for him.
No, I agree with all that. The one thing I will want to say, I may be in the minority here. I have people try to tell me all the time, like, oh, everybody adds strength. And in some capacity they do. Like, players are going to get stronger. Like, he's going to become a man and he's going to get stronger. But he does need to continue to fill out his frame. And I think sometimes we guarantee that. Like, people are just like, well, that's easy. He's going to get into an NBA weight room and he's going to put... Some guys' bodies just don't work that way. Some guys maybe don't buy into it. I don't know Cam Carr. I have no idea if he will or not. The only thing I don't even bring that up specifically for Cam Carr. I just bring it up in general. Anytime we have guys whose frames look like this, is I don't subscribe to, oh, snap of the finger, they're going to fill out their frame and it's going to be NBA ready, NBA strong, all of that, especially early in their career. So I do think it's important with him because he does have one of those bodies and those frames right now. Now, maybe he'll, continue to add weight and strength and it'll all be okay. But I do at least like to provide that context, at least for my opinion on that, because I don't think it's 100% guarantee that he's going to put on the necessary how many ever pounds of strength and muscle that I do think he still needs to add to be successful in the NBA.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely right. Absolutely right. So let's, before we move on and talk about some other guys with Feast Week, we're going to shout out our friends over at Momentous. Look, creatine isn't just for building muscle. It has become a daily essential for your strength, focus, recovery, aging, and cognitive performance. Look, as somebody that deals with ADHD, I can absolutely speak to the focus factor. I struggle with that immensely all of the time to try and find ways to at least help with my focus and making sure my focus is honed in the right areas. Momentous is making your daily creatine routine even easier with new creatine chews. These bite-sized lemon lime chews make consistency effortless. You just chew and go. Each chew delivers exactly 1 gram of CreaPure creatine monohydrate, the gold standard, single source from Germany, and it is NSF certified for sport, which means it is independently tested for purity, safety, and label accuracy. Whether you're training, working, or traveling, this is performance without pause, made to support your body and your brain every single day. And unlike generic brands, Momentous doesn't follow trends. They perfect the fundamentals. This is creatine done right. Right now, Momentous is offering our listeners 35% off your first order with the promo code GAME. That's livemomentous.com, LIVEMOMENTOUS.com, and use that promo code GAME for up to 35% off your first order. That's livemomentous.com, promo code GAME. We're also going to shout out our friends over at Harry's. Look, we've all been there before, shaving with razors that get dull too quickly. If you watch the show on YouTube, obviously you can see that both Bryce and I have beards, and you don't realize until it's too late that the razors are dull, and you end up with this crazy irritated neck, despite having just spent like $30 to get 8 refills, or, it'll be something that just falls apart after 2 uses, right? With Harry's razors, they're not going to do that. And the Harry's Plus especially is not going to do that. Harry's Plus has an advanced pivoting system to reach every corner of your face. It has a refined blade tech for a closer, smoother shave, and it has a weighted metal handle for added comfort and control. With Harry's Plus, you can get a barbershop quality shave with German engineered blades. But the best part with Harry's is how affordable it is. Harry's owns their own world-class blade factory, in Germany, so there's no outsourcing, no middleman. And because they control the entire process from steel to shelf, they keep costs low. Harry's has launched their most advanced razor ever, and it's still cheaper than the Gillette Fusion 5. For a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for just $10 at harrys.com/game theory. This set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, one refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect all your blades on the go. Go to harrys.com/game theory, harrys.com/game theory, all one word, to claim this offer. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. harrys.com/game theory. Okay, Bryce, I'll give you the floor. Who do you want to talk about next from Feast Week?
I mean, I think we probably need to go to the top and talk about Cam Boozer, because he had a massive game against Arkansas. One of the, prime games that we talked about coming into the week. And he delivered with a 35, 9, 3, and 2 performance. And so I think he's probably the guy that we need to go to next.
So I think the thing that was coolest about this game was, he started to finish at the rim, which was the biggest, most important thing that we have talked about with him. It had not been great in the Kansas and Texas games.
Can I say one thing real quick? It really frustrates me when people mock the fact that people like us brought this point up about, we're talking about Cam Boozer as a top 3 pick. I feel like we should be allowed to bring up the nuances of what could make him the highest success of his ceiling and not. I got a little irritated.
Part of it is that I think people care about those not those games where he plays Indiana State and Howard and stuff like that, and I just don't, honestly.
Yeah. So that was someone I saw, that was the tweet I saw, and there's a bunch, but the one that really got me was someone was using the Howard game, and they're not doing it specifically to us. I realize they're not calling us out, but was oh, is this not good enough for people? I'm with all due respect, that's not what we're talking about. And to your point, and where you were going was, this Arkansas game was, a high level competition, and he was awesome.
Yeah, no, he was unbelievable in the Arkansas game. And I think what was most important about this is, to his detriment and to Scouts' glee, John Calipari did not send doubles at Cam Boozer. He played him straight up. And the reason that I say to Scouts' glee is because NBA teams aren't going to be able to send doubles to Cam Boozer all the time. There's too much shooting out there. There's too many guys who can really space the court.
And he's a good passer. We know he's a good passer.
And he's a really good passer who will take advantage of things, right? Now, in my opinion, the way that Kansas and Texas played him, where Kansas doubled him immediately as soon as he touched it. Texas was sending bodies on drives and things like that. It was a little bit different. I would be doing that. I would send multiple bodies to Cam Boozer all the time, because even though he is a great passer, I'm just letting everybody else beat me, is the reality on that team. All due respect to Isaiah Evans, he's the guy that I would make sure that I'm on all the time. But if Caleb Foster is going to beat me, all due respect to Caleb Foster, I'm not letting Cam do it, is the thing.
Make Dame hit threes.
Make Dame Sarr hit threes. Make Patrick Ngongba finish at the rim. And Ngongba has finished at the rim so far, but he's not an above the rim guy either. So if you can get a contest on some of his shots at the rim in help situations where you're scrambling, I'm okay with that personally. I don't think it's good to not help any at all on Boozer. And it's especially not a good idea to do with Trayvon Brazile, who's not a guy that I rate very highly on defense, to be honest. They just left Brazile on an island against him, and Cam just obliterated him. He just wiped him off the face of the earth. It was a hell of a performance. It was an unbelievable game. And the thing is that, again, it was fairly applicable to the way it could look in the NBA, because of the fact that it's going to be hard to send help. So we got to see Cam operate in a little bit more space, we hadn't gotten to see yet against super high level teams. And I don't know. I love the results. I'm very, very excited by what we saw.
That was the first game that made me feel like really good in the top three. I've been a little lower and slower on Cam. I mean, I've had him in the top three, but like really feel like, okay, and had me kind of wondering like, man, do I maybe put him top one? Like, do I think he's number one? I didn't move him there, but it had me thinking because I'm going, I can see this on an NBA floor. I do think if he can do this, you can throw him the ball and then he's either going to face up and score, he's going to attack, he's got the footwork, or like you said, okay, we're going to send two. I watch NBA teams, throw two at Tobias Harris right now and what that generates for, his team. Here's the other thing that I'm excited about, Sam. When people are listening to this, and it may have already happened, they play Florida Tuesday night, and that is one of the better front lines in college basketball. And then they play Michigan State on Saturday, who always competes, has a defensive game plan, and has bigs. So
that's a great front line. Like, I'm more excited to watch the Michigan State game. We're going to talk about what they did to Caleb, and like not did to Caleb Wilson, but how they, played against that UNC team. I think that team is awesome on defense on the interior, even better than Florida on defense on the interior.
So he's got two major matchups coming this week where, and we said this last week, talking about this matchup against Arkansas, that there was 3 of 4 coming up, or I guess it'd be 3 in a row. And these next two, I think I'm even more excited about, but he definitely deserves love for what he did on, on Thanksgiving, on Thursday.
Yeah, I thought he was outstanding. The drives, the way that he leverages guys to get to the rim. I thought his footwork was great. Arkansas fans are screaming at us right now because we're not calling out the use of the offhand. He is very crafty at using his like elbows and his offhand to be able to separate from defenders. If he's going to run into a ref this year that's going to call it at some point. And he's going to have like 4 fouls eventually in a game because 2 of them are on the offensive end for using his off arm, just like clearing. It's going to happen at some point this year, but it's not going to happen all that often in the NBA where he gets called for it.
So that's why I haven't brought it up so I thought there was one egregious call in that game.
There were a couple, I thought. Yeah.
Well, there was one where he did it and then they called the foul on the defense. I'm like, well, you can't call the foul on the defense at the very least. But there was one I thought was good where I thought he tried to take the elbow into the defender's like armpit. And I don't think you get called for that as much as whenever you hook. And so I've tried to hash out, is it worth talking about? Because to your point, I don't know that he doesn't get to do it in the NBA. And if he gets to do it in the NBA for what we're talking about, then why do I care? You know what I mean? Like, it may limit him in college, like you said, because he may get in foul trouble with certain officials. But if I think he's going to be able to do it in the NBA, then my evaluation of him is a positive. Like, it's going to be a use. And so I've kind of gone back and forth on, where I fall on it with him, but he definitely uses it. Yeah. But I think he's trying to be strategic with it, even though there's a couple that are pretty bad in terms of hooks.
Yeah. So, we'll see how it goes the rest of the year. And I'm excited to watch it. You wanted to bring up the other guys. I didn't watch either of AJ's games yet this weekend, to be honest with you.
So I watched them a little bit. I was trying to think where. So I know, who was it? I
guess they played 3. I'm sorry. I forgot that they played Dayton in the title game.
Yeah. So I think it was actually the Dayton game where like he had the handle at the end of that game. I think they full court press.
No, I was right. It was 2. The Wisconsin game was last week. I'm sorry. Continue, Bryce.
No, it just stood like that stood out to me in terms of it was a lot of the same stuff. I'm worried about the handle. There was a full court pressure situation where like they just take it from him. In that game, he struggled defensively. I think it was twice he tried to go under a screen on Javon Bennett, and Bennett nailed 2 3-pointers. So like it was a lot of those, but then like you see the exciting stuff in terms of he covers so much ground and he can get to the free throw line. He did, against Miami, he got there 7 times. And so he hit a big 3 in the game against Dayton. They got down in that game and then eventually came back. So I find myself, I'll watch him sometimes be like, man, like defense isn't all that impactful. Why isn't there more defensive disruption? The jumper, Maybe I don't think. And then all of a sudden he goes through a stretch where he gets to the mid range. He covers all of this ground. I still think he's a very willing and connect. Like I think he's a fine passer, and I still kind of find myself getting excited about him. So that's every game I've watched of him this year. I've kind of ended up with the same stuff.
Yeah, I've also ended up very similarly across the board with him this year. The off-ball defense is my biggest thing right now that frustrates me with him. And again, I've seen some clips from this, like the games this weekend where he just like completely blew coverages. But like even in the games earlier this year that we've broken down on the Substack channel, shout out Game Theory, samv.substack.com. Go subscribe. There's no better way to support the show. You'll have like 5 or 6 AJ Debinsa breakdowns already, to be honest, going back to the U19s. He's a fascinating player to watch. I will watch at some point, probably, I guess I'll watch the Dayton game, I would guess. Like
the Dayton game is, yes, because so he made ball screen mistakes and then he gave up a backdoor in the second half as well. Like, so the defensive stuff, I'll be interested to see what you think, the handle in that game. But then the Miami game, he has like this mid-range jumper where he gets there, he shot fakes, times it up perfectly, and then elevates and knocks it down. It's like when he gets to the middle of the lane off the dribble, I just don't think anybody's going to stop him. And he has all of these different ways to attack the defender from there. I think it was the Dayton game. He had a Euro step. He just covered so much ground. So I have questions, but I still find myself always coming away. And at the end of the day, Sam, he's averaging 19, 6, and 2 on 52, 38, 76. Now, the 3-point volume isn't high at all. He hasn't taken a whole lot, but he's gotten to the free throw line. What's their schedule coming up? Do we have any more big ones?
I mean, look, they're in the Big 12. So like,
yeah, for sure. I just didn't know if there was anything before Big 12 play. Oh, yeah, they have Texas Tech on Saturday. So,
yeah. Right.
Is that
that's
no. That's a lie. That is a lie. That is the football schedule. Type in basketball. I was going to say
it'd be amazing if they were both playing on Saturday.
No, so they have a Cal Baptist, Clemson, UC Riverside, Pacific.
Clemson will be okay.
Clemson will be okay, and then they have a little bit of stretch where it's not a ton until we get to Big 12 play. So
yeah, I feel like November, you get like this little lull here in like early December sometimes where it's not quite as aggressive as what it's been. But hey, I'm excited to watch more AJ. Nate Ament is the other guy that I think that is really worth bringing up here. I thought that Ament really struggled against Houston. I've watched the Rutgers game. I thought he was better in that game. Rutgers is like abjectly terrible for a high major, but like I thought he was better in that game. The Kansas game is the one that I'm really excited to watch, and I haven't yet. He had 8. I'm sorry, goodness. He had 8 free throw attempts in both the Kansas and Houston games. Again, I've not watched the Kansas game to see where he got to, but the Houston game, it's just like none of the on-ball stuff worked at all. I thought he goes 1 for 8 from the field in that game, 9 points. But I thought all of the off-ball stuff looked really good. He's a different player than Zach Rissachet, but like it felt like that kind of impact to me, I guess. Like, again, like I don't want to say that they're all that similar. I think that they're different in a lot of ways, but like that's the kind of impact that I felt. Like, okay, he's cutting off the ball. He's in the right places defensively. He cares about that. I felt like he rebounded okay. He makes quick decisions passing the ball. Like all of that stuff I thought was really good. And I thought the effort was really good. It's just like none of the on-ball stuff looked great at all.
That's where I'm at. And I think probably my biggest disconnect with people, like I saw people pushing him into the top 3. I don't know if that was what game that was after. I think he can attack closeouts. Like I think he's going to be able to do that. But I didn't think like the off the dribble, specifically in that Houston game, and we know how good they are defensively, but I thought he was really struggling to create advantages against them. But again, I do think he can absolutely attack closeouts and be good off of that. And then he can do, like some of the passing stuff. I think he's a good passer. He understands that. And then I do think the defense has been disruptive. He's averaging almost 2 steals a game. He's extremely long on that end of the floor. And yeah, like I even had here, he had a solid point of attack possession against Uzon in that game against Houston. So Yeah, I think there's a potential there defensively, and I think he can be a big time rebounder.
The big thing for me right now is the finishing at the rim. And that's a big, point that we called out in the preseason as a thing to really watch for with Amon. There's a possession in the Houston game where like he gets a baseline drive and all he has to do is just go straight toward the rim. And like the worst case scenario is he gets fouled going all the way to the basket. And instead he like leans all the way away on the left side and tries to go for like this inside hand right finish. And it was really frustrating because don't go away from the contact. And again, I know I'm speaking about a player that averaged 8 free throw attempts in his last 2 games against really good teams, but the finishing at the rim is just like kind of driving me a little bit crazy right now. He's shooting 47.6% at the rim in all situations, including full court transition opportunities.
Look at half court. Yeah.
He's only at 36.4% in half court right now. He's made 8 of his 22 attempts in half court settings. And Tennessee's schedule coming into Players Era was quite poor. So the finishing is like a real worry. The ability to put pressure on the rim feels like a pretty real worry to me. And then I don't know how you feel about the shot, but I think I don't know if it's like the strength addition. He looks way stronger and way more physical than he was in high school. And that's a huge credit to him. It feels like the rhythm is off from like his lower half to his upper half right now. It almost feels like 2 to me. He's always had that like kind of twist to the right on his shot, and his shot has always been quite wristy, but it almost feels like more middle aligned now than it was previously. And he's like twisting to the right. And it just looks off to me, like across the kinetic, chain of the shot. Whereas previously, even though he was like kind of upright and wristy when he would take shots, the kinetic chain, like going up from the lower half to the upper half, it felt pure. It felt right. Look, maybe, I'm losing my mind and that will adjust and it'll work itself out as the year goes. Like, this is the guy that drilled 40% from 3 in AAU last year. And right now he's shooting 31% from 3 on 5 attempts per game. I'm interested to see where the shooting settles with Amon.
Yeah, I'm fascinated here because I thought that was going to be a superpower. Like, I thought what was interesting was like he was going to be a big time 3-point shot maker at his size. And then, as we've talked about, well, then the off the dribble stuff becomes easy because the advantages are created off hard closeouts, relocations, and those type of things. And to your point, like he is getting to the free throw line a lot. So maybe I'm being a little bit hard on him in terms of his off the dribble things. I will say, I agree with you. I don't think it looks super fluid or smooth. The free throw percentage is at 82% right now. So I think that should give people a lot of confidence and trust in, at the very least, the touch. And maybe he's adjusting to, like you and I both know, how quickly a shot has to get off at Tennessee, even against that competition compared to AAU high school stuff is different. So maybe there is just a little bit of adjustment. Maybe there was a tweak, whatever. I think that I trust in him to get it figured out, especially considering what I thought about him coming in and where that free throw percentage is at right now.
Let's zoom through a few players here, right? So Michigan wins this event. We talked about Michigan and figuring out what their front court is going to look like. They've just figured it out and they blew the doors off of everybody, including a Gonzaga team that I think has looked awesome this season. Like, I thought Gonzaga was pretty clearly a top 5 team in the country right now, entering that game against Michigan. And honestly, I still think that they're a top 5 team in the country. If you made me say, like, I don't know if they will finish as a top 5 team, but right now, in terms of how they are playing, I think they have been one of the 5 best teams in the country this year, like, just period. And Michigan beat them by 40. Like, it didn't matter. Absolutely didn't matter. So Yax is the guy here. Yaxel Lendeborg has really started to like settle into the role. I thought he was the best player in both the Auburn and Gonzaga games. By the way, they beat Auburn by 30. They beat San Diego State by 40. 3 just absolute massive blowouts. 17-8 with 4, or 17-5, I'm sorry, with 4 assists against Auburn. Against Gonzaga, 20-11-3 with 2 blocks and 4 steals. He's the best player on the court against Gonzaga by a mile, I thought. Yaxel looks like a first-round pick to me, which is great because early in the season, it felt like he was adjusting and trying to find the role.
Yeah, I thought, early in the year, I had him as a first-round pick. It started to move the other direction through the first few games. We talked about like, how are they using him? Those 3 games total, 17 points a game on 44% from the 3-point line on over 5 attempts, 73% from the free throw line. We know he's a big time rebounder, 2 steals, over a block. Like, we know he can pass. We know he can be disruptive on the defensive end. I feel like this is a case of a guy who was trying to fit in with his team and not be overly dominant and, not come in and then has slowly started to figure out the role, but also like, my team's at the best whenever I'm the best player on the floor, when I'm the most aggressive offensive player on the floor, and when I'm attacking downhill and creating for them along with knocking down 3-pointers. So I do feel like he has figured it out. That's a good Michigan team, obviously. And I thought it was a really, really good week for Yaxel.
Yeah. Look, part of this could be foul trouble too. Mara had some issues with fouling in the first 2 games. It felt like they leaned a little bit less into the like high post Mara, initiation stuff to me as well, than they did against TCU and Wake Forest. But, in the game against Gonzaga, like everything just worked. It felt like it didn't matter what they were doing. Like it just, it was just a completely dominant performance across the board. Lendeborg looks great. He looks absolutely elite across college basketball right now. None of the Gonzaga guys like particularly stand out to me as draft prospects, in all honesty. Braden Huff maybe a little bit, after another year, but yeah.
I find myself with him going like, this is kind of a big man skill. I feel like teams might value event. Like, he hits that little floater over and over. He can stretch it a little bit. I at least have him on my radar now more so than I did coming into the year.
And Mario Stansupari, he is a guy that I love the idea of him. He's very clearly an incredible passer and like understands how to play the game, get the team organized. He's really fit into Gonzaga's scheme already. It just feels like he doesn't have a way to score yet on an NBA court, and like should in no way, shape, or form be considering leaving Gonzaga after this year, to me.
Yeah. No, he's
like, stay there, get stronger, figure out your game as a scorer, and then like we'll talk a little bit.
Yep. No, I agree.
Have you watched any of the Virginia Tech games yet?
A little bit with Avdilas.
Yeah, Neoclis Avdilas. So after Avdilas's Providence game, right? We talked about the fact that Avdilas is an awesome player. We all really like him. I still have him as a 1st-round pick, but we thought the hype got like a little bit crazy just because we wanted to see where the scoring would settle in, right? So outside of that Providence game, if you look at his next, let's call it, I think it's 6 games that he's played. Avdilas is shooting 42, 30, 68. He's averaging 11 points, 3.7 assists versus 1.8 turnovers. In the game against St. Mary's, like they just completely shut him down and like did not let him do anything. The way that they played defense with just like being massive on the interior, he had no way to score. It felt like to me he was he was going to have to be super reliant on the jumper to be able to do anything. He went 1 for 5 from 3. Did get to the line 7 times, but like had 5 turnovers and really struggled. And then against VCU, even VCU kind of blew the doors off of them a little bit as well. And they just made his life like completely miserable as well. And they're an athletic team. And, I actually think VCU's got a chance to make the tournament this year. I really like that staff, Phil Martelli and those guys, but like, they're also not like the teams that Avdilas is going to be playing every day in the ACC. And I do think that we've seen now what the concerns were for Avdilas coming into the year and why I think he's more of like, this is a 1st-round pick. Like, I'm excited about him and I think he's an interesting player, but it's not like, oh my God, like he's blowing the doors off the place. Like we have to like get into the lottery to get him.
Yeah, I watched that St. Mary's game. I was actually watching that one a little bit more for Mikey Lewis, just to see like what I thought about him. And so, but I obviously had some notes, and I thought Avdilas was, you mentioned like the turnovers. I thought he was a little bit loose with the ball. Just hasn't looked as dynamic in a lot of these games offensively as what we saw in that Providence game. So I I've moved him a little bit lower since, obviously I had him, I was excited about him coming into the year, and then he had that big game. As I'm I think the spot I'm really trying to find players is rounding out my first round. Obviously, we're super, super early, but that ends up kind of recycling and moving a lot. And he's just kind of in that range for me right now as a guy, in the 20 to 30 range. And we'll just see how he continues to play. And as you mentioned, how he handles ACC play.
Yeah. And he might end up as like a clear top 20, late lottery guy. I think it's very possible as he adjusts to college, but I never saw him as like this lottery guy either. Like he had an amazing game against Providence because Providence's defense is a catastrophe. There was a stretch. Let me find the text I got from somebody. In Providence's first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games this year, they surrendered a career high to its opponent's top scorer in every game. Holy Cross, Tyler Boston, 25, Avdilas, 33, Michael Zanoni, 30 for Penn, Alon McKiley, Colorado, 20, New Hampshire, Jack Graham, 22, Freddie DeLeon, 22, Nick Boyd, 26. All career highs for those guys against Providence. So, yeah, my assessment at the time was like Providence's defense was quite bad. Unfortunately, because I want the best for that program and that staff and everybody up there that's working really, really hard to try and make it work. It just hasn't yet defensively on that end of the court. Anyone else you want to bring up here?
I love LeBaron Philon.
Philon's game against Gonzaga was awesome. I didn't watch either of their other 2 games yet at the Players Era, but I did really love the game against Gonzaga, and I thought he was awesome.
Yeah, I just find myself loving the way he plays, and he's making threes this year at 38% on almost 5. There have been some turnovers. The Gonzaga game, the Maryland game, he did turn the ball over a little bit, but he's 56% from the field. I just, that's a guy I really like. We saw Bennett Sturts against, what was it, Old Miss we talked about. And he continues to just go about his business. He scored, I think that was a career high in that game. So kind of answered that question, shot it really well from 3. What I loved about that game from Sturts is that he took 8 threes. It was one thing for me last year. I did want to see a little bit more 3-point volume from him. So we'll see how
made them go into his right, to his left, like off the pull-ups, hit a couple off the catch. Like it was, he might be like a real shooter. I have some real questions that even after the Ole Miss game about him getting past defenders and like being able to break down guys at the NBA level, but like might be like a very, very, very real shooter, not just like a, hey, this is like a solid shooter. You know what I mean?
Yep. Braylon Mullins, we got to see him make his debut. Not a whole lot to talk about there. I have a guy I want to ask you about. Where are you at on Richie Saunders?
I think he gets drafted this year for sure. I don't know that I can get to first round pick with Richie.
What is the biggest concern? Because like I think
his game is so efficient.
I think I'm close to first round, Sam. Like in like I just mentioned, like where I'm struggling to round out my into the 20s into the 30s. I'm like, this dude hits shots. He's active off the ball defensively. I think he can attack a closeout. I just think at the end of the first round, top of the second, I'm into that.
So I'm not opposed to that, to be clear. Like Richie Saunders, when I update the mock this week, will probably be in the top 45-ish, I would guess. So like not out of that ballpark of like late first rounder. Richie will also be 25 before he plays an NBA game.
Sure.
Like that's a real factor here, but he's super efficient. He's super smart. Again, I didn't watch the Dayton game where he had 29 and it looks like he just like completely balled out, but I've watched them multiple times this year and he stood out every single time. He's averaging 26 and 2 so far, 51, 43, 77. I think he's a really smart player. I think he just really understands how to move without the ball, how to create space for himself without the ball. A really smart player that, whether or not he's able to defend is going to really, play the difference in him being able to play in an NBA game.
I want to counter the age thing real quick. And I'm usually like, I actually get really frustrated when people get mad that we bring up age because I do think it's a real factor. Just the range we're talking about, is there not an argument that teams would value that? Like I look at this area of the draft, the Pistons, the Lakers, the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Cavs, the Knicks, the Heat. Like, wouldn't they value a guy that can come in right away and play as a 24-year-old?
They would. But the key is, can he play from the jump in the NBA? Because
that's it.
What you can expect is that his rate of improvement is not going to be as great as somebody that you draft at 20, right? So is he going to be able to is he so good that he's able to play in the NBA from the jump? And I'm willing to hear out that argument for him. He's a good enough shooter and is smart enough without the ball and is like a pretty smart team defender as well, to where like I am genuinely willing to hear out the argument that he is, which is why I think that I'm willing to have that conversation.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think I think offensively he is. Like, I just think he's a big time shooter. And I've seen him attack closeouts enough to think that when teams run him off the line, he's going to be able to effectively attack those closeouts. I will listen to can he guard and hold up at the point of attack? Yeah. But I do think he can be an off the ball defender. I've watched enough off the ball where he's like made digs and been smart with rotations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And been impactful with defensive boards to just go, okay, if I'm Detroit and I just need to add something like this to my rotation, like sign me up type of thing, So I don't know. I just, he can shoot it, man. Hands.
Here would be my question for you.
Yep.
Have you watched much Iowa State yet?
Yeah.
Do you like him or Joshua Jefferson better?
So I think Joshua Jefferson does a little bit of everything more.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's a better passer. He's super skilled. He has great size. I think where I'm at with Joshua,
way better defender too.
So here's my thing with Joshua. How good of a defender do we think Joshua Jefferson is?
That I'm not totally sure about yet.
This is where I struggle with people. It's like, I have people talk to me like Joshua Jefferson is like this incredibly versatile, big time, whatever defender.
No, he's like a solid defender.
So I buy that. I buy the passing. Obviously, a real rebounder. Here's my thing, though. So with Richie, can he guard at the point of attack? With Jefferson, are we sure he's going to knock down corner, catch and shoot threes? Are we sure that people are going to respect him? Like, I'm real interested. Listen, I have Joshua Jefferson in my top 60. Like, I think he's good. But
yeah, I do too.
Like, I would take Richie over him right now, I think, if I had to, just because I buy the jumper.
It's hard because I want to know what Richie measures in at.
That's
like,
fair.
I want to, like, is he like 6'3.5" or is he, 6'5"? You know what I mean? Jefferson's big. Like, that dude is 6'7", at least, I would guess. Has long arms, it seems like. Rebounds. He really passes the ball. Doesn't make bad decisions. Like, I really like Joshua Jefferson quite a bit as well. I don't have him in the first round, but I like Joshua Jefferson quite a bit. And his games at the Players era, I thought were really fun. Like, he had 13 and 10 assists against Syracuse. He had 17 and 8 rebounds against St. John's. I didn't watch the Creighton game. Did I watch the Creighton game? No, I didn't watch them play Creighton. Like, I really enjoyed what I saw from him. So
here's it. Like, I've said this before. I've been to a practice at Iowa State. I love that staff and I love what they do and I love how they go about their business. And so, like, I always enjoy watching them play because of how they play.
Yeah.
My guy, Momentous, man, is shooting that thing right now. 50, 40, 90.
Shoots the hell out of it. Always has. The question is, can he do anything else? He's damn near 50, 50, 90, by the way. Momcilovic. He is sniping now from 3. Okay. The last guy I want to talk about here before we get out of here, and look, there are so many guys played Feast Week. We just like to keep these shows at right around an hour. Really, honestly,
before we get into this,
we're going to go a little bit longer throughout the rest of the time, but continue.
Real quick, because it's going to be the same state. Who's your favorite prospect on North Carolina State? Who are you most interested in on that team?
Matt Abel, for sure.
Okay. All right.
That's not even a question to me. Yep. Long term, it's definitely Matt Abel, I think. And I know he played terrible in their last game. I did watch that game. But yeah, I think pretty clearly long term it's him from what I've seen.
I agree. Like I have him in, like if I had tiered it out, would be in different tiers above McNeil, and I'm just not a Darion Williams guy. So
I think Darion Williams is interesting, but I want to see what he's going to have to really shoot it to be an NBA player. I think is kind of where I'm at. Yeah, the Able games against VCU and against Seton Hall were really good. His little 9-minute stretch against Texas, unfortunately, was not very good. So we shall see what that looks like. But I am definitely a Matt Able guy, I would say.
Agreed.
Okay, let's go to Caleb Wilson. So Caleb Wilson had what I thought was a pretty interesting game against Michigan State. He came out on fire and was incredible, throwing down dunks all over the place in the first 5 minutes, and like just looked like he was going to athletically overpower that Michigan State front line. I think he had like 8 points in the first 5 minutes. And then the rest of the game was a real question. It was interesting, like attempts to get to the basket and like drives and forays to the rim, some post possessions as well, like face up post possessions. I thought in the second half he was quite bad on defense. I would even like not just like, not the guy that we maybe expected coming in defensively, where like really, really good. But I actually thought like he had 3 particularly that I can think of in my head, like egregiously bad off ball defensive reps in that game. Like in the middle of the second half there. And yet he is still just like an absolute joke athletically. I love his body mechanics. Like I love the way that he's able to like make himself skinny and find his way through like the tiniest little gaps. And I thought Michigan State was such a good example of that and such a good barometer of that because of the way that they condense the paint whenever they're playing an opponent. Where are you at on Caleb Wilson right now? So for reference, Caleb Wilson, I think, went for 18 points in this game, right?
Yep.
I'll pull up the exact numbers while we're talking.
7, 1 assist, 2 steals, 6-7 from the free throw line, 0 of 3 from 3. Yeah.
6 for 13 from the field as well.
Yep. So he's averaging 20 on the year, almost 10 rebounds, almost 2.5 offensive boards. I like Caleb Wilson a lot. The offensive game, I guess, is a little bit interesting to me in terms of I feel like it's a lot of like isolation, like take guys to the post, all of that. But I do think like his movements, his athleticism, I don't know if it was the Michigan State game, but there was a game recently, he had like this insane jab step where he moves the defender all the way out of the way and he gets downhill drive, hits a floater. He dunks, he has an insane amount of dunks already. The non-dunk stuff at the rim is extremely concerning. And then the lack of 3-point shooting. I guess my point here is, Sam, I'm still trying to figure out what my understanding and vision is of his offensive game. And then to your point, is the defense going to be as good as what I thought, whatever, coming into the season? It was not quite as good as I expected in the Kansas game. You were talking about it here in the Michigan State game. He obviously has recovery ability and ground coverage and all of that stuff. So he is one of these guys in the top 5 or 6 or wherever people have him that, at least for me, I'm still kind of trying to figure out what his game is and what the vision is, at least in terms of for me.
Yeah. And look, I say this is somebody, I have Caleb Wilson at 4 right now.
Same.
I think the athleticism is very real. The way that he moves is very real. Everything I've gotten from like all of the intel side is like the personality is awesome. And you've seen some of it like pop out a little bit in some interviews he's done, but like very funny, like a real energy giver, like behind the scenes as well. Like really, really smart, like all that stuff, like very good. So like, I'm very excited about that as well. But yeah, like doesn't really make layups right now. It feels like if you dunk the ball every time, you don't have to make layups quite as often. That's a real factor that is typically a good thing. But What do you think Caleb Wilson is shooting on layups right now this year, Bryce?
I know what he is because I looked it up and it's like 30% or something.
Yeah, he's at 6 for 21 this year on layup attempts right now. And then the shooting numbers are not great. So like, what is the touch is like a real question. And then frankly, you also look at the free throw rate where he's at 77% from the line too. So like there is some inherent touch there, but I don't know. Like the jumper looks kind of hitchy to me now. Especially whenever he tries to extend it out to the 3-point line, like the power generation is basically like all really getting generated from his arms, it feels like. And he's like really trying to fling that thing to the rim. I'm pretty sure you just take the athleticism bet and you roll with it if you're an NBA team and you work on the skill stuff, like as he continues to grow and get stronger and more physical. But there are more flaws here, I guess, than what I thought. Like people were trying to make the case of like him in the conversation with Peterson, Boozer, and Debanza, and I don't see that right now. Like I for as productive and as good as he's been, I do think he's like clearly the fourth guy, not really in like their echelon quite yet.
Yeah, I agree. So like just looking at like synergy play types, which I don't always think are perfect, but post-ups are his number one half court play type. And so it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like, this is why I'm having to still figure, and for what it's worth, they have him as excellent on those, like that he's scored the ball well in those situations. Transition is the number one overall, where obviously his athleticism plays very well. I'm trying to hash out like, okay, what's this look like? Is this going to be successful? Does he have all of the game to do that in the NBA the way we talked about with Cam Boozer earlier? Maybe he does. Maybe the answer to that question is going to be yes. He will be the same type of scorer in those situations and be the same type of passer and all of that. I guess it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So it's taking me a little bit of time to fully grasp it, even though it's not like I've moved him down my board because of that.
He's just such an athlete. Is the thing. Like he is a very sick athlete.
Yeah.
Even by NBA standards is kind of the issue. And that's why I'm like looking at it and I'm just like, I kind of don't know if I care at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like he is so athletic that if there's even just like a little bit of skill improvement that will come. And from what I understand, like he is like a real worker, I guess, like from the moment that he got cut from the U18 FIBA Americas team, like it just went into like overdrive.
Okay.
So like I'm excited about what I have seen from the athleticism, and from what I understand about the work ethic is also very, very, very interesting to me.
Love it. No, I love I've mentioned this in my Darius Acuff breakdown, or maybe I didn't, but I had meant to. I don't get the same type of intel that you do on these guys. So I was actually listening to Slam and Jam that you went on. By the way, did you win trivia or no? You take an L? Can't remember.
No, I always take Andrew kicks my ass every time in trivia.
Okay.
Like Andrew is, do you win trivia against him?
I've never won. No.
I've won before, like don't get me wrong, but like I'm probably 2-8.
Yeah,
like I've gone on that show regularly, but like I would guess I'm 2-8 against Andrew in trivia.
Nothing stresses me out more than going on trivia on that show, though. Literally nothing about podcast. Whenever you and I are going to well, that's not true. When the award shows stress me out, but
by the way, folks, the next episode of the show, NBA awards, it's happening.
Yes, it is. And I've already been thinking through it, and my blood pressure's up. I got to up the dosage on the blood pressure medicine, but I hate doing trivia because I'm like, the only outcome here is I look stupid. Like I give some ridiculous answer that just makes me look like an idiot. So I love when Andrew asks impossible questions, or not Andrew, Alex, because then I'm like, nobody expects us to know this. This is great. Ask as hard of questions as you want, Al, because then there's no way I look dumb. My point here was I loved listening to you give the Caleb Wilson intel on that episode that I listened to. And I don't get that stuff, so I always enjoy hearing you talk about it, about different prospects. That was my point there.
All right. I think that's all we got. We got to shout out our friends over at Rula before we get out of here. Look, taking care of your mental health shouldn't be harder than taking care of your physical health. If you pull a muscle, you go see a doctor, but when it comes to finding the right therapist, suddenly it's frustrating. You've got long wait lists. You're staring down huge out-of-pocket costs. That's usually what stops people from getting help. That is where Rula comes in. Rula makes therapy simple, affordable, and fast. They work with most insurance plans, and the average session copay is just $15. That's basically the cost of lunch, but instead of a sandwich, you're investing in your own headspace. Rula connects you to over 15,000 licensed therapists and psychiatrists nationwide. They cut out the guesswork by matching you with someone based on your needs, preferences, and state requirements, so you're not wasting your time with the wrong fit. And look, as somebody that, again, I have ADHD, and like, it is hard to find the right therapist or the right psychiatrist who, you know, can find the right medication for you. It can be difficult and it can be incredibly frustrating. Rula is going to make it easy. And on top of it, they don't break the bank. Rula works with most major insurance plans. Sessions can cost as little as $15 or can be even $0 depending on your benefits. On top of that, Rula is not just the directory. They help you book appointments, stay on top of your schedule, and keep track of your progress so you actually get somewhere with therapy. Thousands of guys have already used Rula, finally get the care they needed. Don't keep putting it off. Go to rula.com/game theory and get started today. That's RULA.com/game theory, all one word, GAMETHEORY. Take the first step, get connected, and take control of your mental health. Okay, Bryce, I think that's all we got this week. We went longer on this one because Feast Week just had a crazy number of games and teams going on, and you know, we're both just kind of all over the map here between family stuff and everything. So we probably didn't even really, you know, plan this out as well as we typically do on these things. So fun conversation though. I'm excited to get to see some things coming up this week. I haven't even really looked wildly deeply at the schedule yet. You know, I know that like Monday is pretty weak. Tuesday is both Connecticut and Kansas and Florida and Duke. And then I think Wednesday there's like another big game as well. Looking at the schedule here, yeah, it's Louisville, Arkansas.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also get NC State, Auburn, and UCLA, Washington. I would really hope that we get to see Steinbach play for Washington at some point here. That would be nice. But then Thursday is pretty dead. And then Friday picks up again with Gonzaga, Kentucky, which will be a very, very fun matchup as well. And then over the weekend, we've got Duke, Michigan State, Illinois, Tennessee, Louisville, Indiana, and maybe the best game, Iowa State, Purdue, which is going to be just like a bloodbath of physicality. So I'm excited. Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, Motor City Hoops Substack, Game Theory Substack. Obviously, be checking that out. Video breakdowns come in all the time, getting pretty good bang for your buck over there. And of course, the Game Theory podcast right here with Sam Vecenie.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. You will have a mock draft update later this week. I would guess Thursday by the time that I write it and the editors get their hands on it and everything. Go to the Substack, gametheorysamv.substack.com. We will be back on Friday with the first quarter awards podcast for the NBA. I am very excited to talk through that because it is a wild conversation to try and sort through after 20 games. But we do it every year and we will continue to do it. So until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.